Hi, everybody. This is Karen here, and I wanted to take you on a quick tour of one of the resources in your Language Therapy Advanced members material section that will really get to the root cause of some of those language processing problems that we hear so much about. So those issues where we know that there are processing issues, and we're doing all kinds of different strategies to try to figure out why our students aren't understanding language, when really a lot of times it's rooted in your students not having those underlying comprehension abilities at the sentence level. And that's really tied to things like syntax and grammar. So that's why I wanted to draw your attention to one of the resources, actually 3 resources in your materials library. So I am going to go in here in your members area, click in materials library, and you can find these resources in the syntax section here. So there's a lot of different things that are in here, but the ones that I'm going to draw your attention to are these 3 ultimate guides to syntax. So there's volume 1, 2, and 3, and these guides all together cover the 4 sentence types that tend to be a problem for students with language disorders. So these can often be the culprit behind those comprehension deficits, and they can also cause problems as your students are learning to write, because as we know, our students sometimes end up writing sentences that are really simple and non-descriptive. So targeting these sentence types can both improve expression and comprehension. So I'm going to go through these guides one by one to show you what's in there. So in the first guide in volume 1, this one is all about targeting passive voice. So what's in this guide is a section that will show you how to write goals. So in the goal bank in your SPOT framework guide, I do give you a general guideline for writing a goal for a student who is working on sentence structure, but these goals are a little bit more specific. So again, the base goal is to get students to write sentences or say sentences, and then I show you how to do that in a manner that's a little bit more specific if syntax is a really challenging area for your students. Then I include assessment probes. Again, this is an informal probe that you can use to just establish a baseline with this skill. That's at the beginning. And then I include the worksheets here. So we've got over 100 worksheets that will help you to implement 2 different evidence-based strategies for targeting passive voice. And again, we go both active and passive here because you want to show your students the difference between the 2. So these worksheets are organized by tense so that you also get some work on grammar and morphology as well. But this is a massive guide here that you can use that will give you tons of different sentence probes to target with your students. So now we're going to go to volume 2. Now this guide, instead of being titled by the sentence type, is titled by the strategy. So because we can use sentence combining for so many different types of sentences, I have organized this guide by just focusing the entire thing on using this strategy. And the sentence types that you're wanting to build here are sentences with temporal and causal conjunctions, center-embedded relative clauses, and 3 or more clauses. So we're really wanting to get our students to use complex sentences and be able to understand complex sentences. So again, I walk you through writing goals here. This is a little bit more specific than the goals in your SPOT framework guide. So it basically just takes it a step further for those students who really need intense work on syntax. I also include assessment probes here for complex sentences. And then I walk you through different sentence types. And I give you probes that you can use, and also tutorials and explanations here that you can use to target those difficult sentence types. So there's all different types of sentences that you can address using sentence combining. I'm going to go up to the table of contents here. Again, there's over 100 worksheets with sentence probes, but whoops, let me go up here. So I will teach you to actually address 5 different types of sentences here with your students. So the reason that it's broken up this way, even though there are only 4 difficult sentence types, is that we do want to scaffold. So I do show you how to use sentence combining for some easier sentence types to help get your students started with this strategy. So as you go through this guide, you'll know how to work through all of those. The last one that I want to show you is the 3rd volume here. So this one is similar to volume 2 in the types of sentences that are addressed, but instead of combining sentences, we're going to deconstruct sentences. So this is really helpful for students who can't understand what you're saying when you give them more than one detail, for students who have a hard time answering WH questions because they're not processing all of the information that you're giving them. Again, I work through goals here, and then I work through, I give you an assessment procedure here to establish a baseline. Again, it's an informal procedure that you can use to supplement formal assessments. And then I give you the worksheets here. Again, over 100 worksheets with sentence probes that you can use to essentially break these sentences apart into 2 or more separate sentences so that you can show your students these different sentence types and what they mean and how to pull the important information from these sentences. So this can be very helpful for those students who have those processing issues that where maybe you've been working on high-level comprehension and it hasn't been working, or you have been working on WH questions after you've been doing a literacy unit with your students and you just can't figure out what your students are understanding. A lot of times this is the culprit, and these 3 resources are the perfect guide for working through all of those processing issues that might be causing those problems for your students. So again, this is in your featured trainings in the modules that will target syntax, but you can also go ahead and download them right away in your materials library and get started if you've got those students who just really need that intense work on syntax. So thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions about these guides.